Have you ever noticed that when you finally get what you wanted, it never feels quite as good as you thought it would? This is not your fault. It's what expectation does to us. Let's talk about it.
You're listening to Relish, the podcast for people ready to stop chasing self-improvement and start savoring their lives. If you're tired of the hamster wheel of healing and hungry for more joy, presence, and meaning, you're in the right place.
Hey friends, welcome back to Relish. I'm Alyssia. And if you have ever reached a goal and thought, well, wait a second, why don't I feel better? Why doesn't this feel like I thought it would? I feel you. And today I want to unpack why. We are talking expectations and how even well-intentioned ones set us up for suffering. And we're talking about what we can cultivate instead. Now, before I dive in, I want to remind you, I have started this Relish hotline. The number's in the show notes. You can call in, leave a voicemail, and share challenges or questions or struggles that you have. And I would also love if you would call and leave a message sharing what you are grateful for in life. I've got a fun idea if we can get enough calls in. And if you haven't already, a gentle reminder and request to please follow, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and review, etc. Thank you for being here. Let's get into it. So before I even start, I want you to bring to mind a goal that you have in your life. Okay, this could be a professional goal, a relationship goal, a physical or health goal. Take a moment to name some of the expectations you have with that goal, some of the specific outcomes that you're wanting or expecting to happen, the things maybe motivating you. I expect to reach X dollar salary, or I expect to reach this tier position, or maybe it's by this date. I expect to reach this status by the time I'm that age. I expect to get married to my partner within the next 2 years. I expect to increase my bone density by X amount. Okay, these are examples. So choose something for yourself and just keep this in mind as we go through the episode so you can have something to relate it to for yourself. Expectation is the belief that something should happen in a certain way, or that your happiness depends on it. It's sneaky because it hides inside our goals, our plans, even our spiritual practice. It sounds like once I X, then I'll feel Y. Once I get $1 million, then I'll feel at peace. Once I get 1 million subscribers, then I'll feel enough. Once I achieve, XYZ, then I can finally rest. It keeps us on that hamster wheel. And our experience is conditional. Our happiness is conditional. I have to have the $1 million or the subscribers or the external validation to be okay. I can only be okay if I have this. This is very disempowering because my experience is now not in my hands. The paradox is often our patterns are there because we are trying to control. But when I'm living this conditioning, I actually do not have control. I have less control, less agency. And then we start to sense we don't have the control we thought, and so we grip tighter, trying to control our way into feeling safe. But we can't actually control outcomes. And even if we do get them, what if they get taken away? Then that condition for my happiness is gone, and so my happiness is gone. Expectation is very rigid, it's future focused, and it ties your sense of okayness to an outcome that you cannot fully control, which means the moment that reality doesn't match the picture in your mind, you suffer. And even when you do get what you expected, the satisfaction doesn't last. That high, it fades and then suddenly you're reaching for the next thing. That is the hamster wheel and it's exhausting. There's actually a neuroscience reason for this. Our brains are wired to anticipate rewards more than they are to enjoy them. And I'm going to do a whole episode on this soon, but for now, just know that's not you. It's not like a problem with you. That's just biology. Expectation keeps you on this hamster wheel of chasing, proving, striving, waiting for life to deliver something that will finally make you feel okay. But it never comes because expectation itself is the trap. It's a trap where your experience is dependent on this thing outside of you. It's a setup. Now, some of you know my background and my love in life is mindfulness, and it has its roots in Buddhism. And there's a Buddhist teaching that the origin of suffering is attachment. It's the second noble truth. And expectation is a form of attachment. It's a mental attachment to a specific result or timeline or version of yourself. It's a subtle clinging that says it has to go this way. And when it doesn't, we suffer. Not because of what happened, but because of how tightly we were holding on to what we thought we wanted or needed. There's a quote I love that says, happiness is letting go of what I thought my life was supposed to look like, or something like that. You know, that one sentence captures everything we're talking about here. Letting go of what we think it should be, that's where freedom lives. Take a benign example. Maybe you've experienced something like this. This has happened to me multiple times. When I go on vacation with family or friends, sometimes there is some kind of plan. Maybe there's a reservation for a restaurant, and for whatever reason, we can't make it. We're not going to get there in time. We don't want to travel that far. We're too tired, whatever. And, we're kind of bummed because it had like 4.9 stars, and it was probably going to be amazing, but oh well. And we wander into this hole-in-the-wall place across the street. And what do you know? It ends up being the best meal of the trip, the most memorable. Why? Because we did not expect it. And sometimes, maybe we do end up going to the 4.9 star place, and it's fine. It's not bad. It's just, fine. Because the expectation dulls our ability to savor what's actually here. I've lived this in more meaningful ways in my life too. I need to do an episode unpacking my story. It's coming, but some of you know my previous content life as a YouTuber. During that season, I expected reaching 1 million subscribers would finally make me feel whole, relieved, fulfilled, enough. And when I eventually hit that milestone, what do you know? I didn't feel any of those things. I felt kind of empty. I actually felt shame because it was like, why don't I feel the satisfaction I should feel? Why doesn't it feel as good as it should? Should, that word should, it's a good cue for expectations and for judgments. Sometimes I ask my clients, are you shoulding on yourself? You might have heard that one before. So that example, it was expectation at work. There was an attachment to a picture of success that couldn't deliver what I really wanted. Maybe you felt this too, when something that you've worked so hard for finally happens, but it doesn't feel like you thought it would. Now, with this project, this content project, Relish, the energy that I'm experiencing is totally different than that last project. And I intentionally went into this. I chose to enter this without expectations, as much as humanly possible, of course. We will talk about that. But I did go into it with aspirations. So here's a paradigm shift that might be able to offer you some freedom when it comes to goals, going from expectation to aspiration. With Relish, I do have goals, but the focus is that I am aspiring to share truth, to connect with people, to help people reconnect with themselves, to create something meaningful. Aspirations connect you with your deeper intentions, your deeper why. So I can be connected to that intention without being attached to the outcome or the goals. With aspiration, I can have some direction, but without gripping it. The journey itself and wherever I am in the journey actually becomes the point with aspiration. This moment, right here, right now, connecting with you as you're listening, this is the point. To relish this connection, this aliveness, this journey. And that makes it meaningful for me right now. Not when or if I ever reach 1 million subscribers. In other moments, the point has been building a team, connecting with my team, helping to make this whole thing happen. In other moments, it's seeing my own growth or noticing my patterns or, my perfectionism that still creeps in. This moment is the point. And of course, that's constantly changing because time is always passing. And relating to it in that way is very freeing because it means there's meaning in every moment, not just when I arrive somewhere. And in fact, when we do hit milestones, like, not too long ago when we were featured spontaneously on Apple Podcasts without expecting it, that was awesome. It was super cool to celebrate. And it was maybe even better because we didn't expect it. But it wasn't the point. I didn't have expectations about how or even if this podcast would grow, but focusing on my aspirations has allowed it to grow in a way that's honestly better than I could have expected. So go back to that expectation you named at the beginning of the episode, okay? Whatever that goal or that dream is. And I want you to check this out for yourself, okay? Indulge me. Take a breath. Reconnect to the expectations, the things that you are waiting to happen, waiting to achieve. And just notice in your body the sense of waiting, the attachment to needing it, the urgency. Connect to those sensations and what that feels like. Maybe there's some kind of tightness or pressure. And then imagine, what if this goal was instead an aspiration, something your heart desires, but you trust the process? What's your deeper intention? What's your deeper intention? Name that aspiration. And then say that to yourself. Connect to that. Take it on. Maybe even close your eyes if it's helpful. What is the deeper aspiration? Is it connection? Is it learning or growth or getting to know yourself? Is it a practice of love or care or self-love? What is it you really want out of this? The deeper intention. Take that on in your body. And if you're connecting to that aspiration instead, how does it feel to approach that goal with trust and openness and curiosity? So there's no right experience you're supposed to have here, okay? For me, I feel a little bit lighter. I feel more open. I feel some relief. I feel trust. There is a felt sense difference between the two. In some way, the expectation tends to breed contraction. The aspiration breeds expansion. Expectation says, I will be enough once I get there. Aspiration says, I am becoming more of who I already am. We've talked about the importance of embodiment on this podcast. Recognize that what you're feeling in your body when you relate to what's happening, that's what's happening in your body is what's making up the moments of your life. That matters. That contraction is happening there in the background. What could be different if you moved from that expansive, open place? Now, I do want to come back and also acknowledge it is totally normal to have expectations. It is the nature of the brain to expect because it functions through this predictive experience. So it's not a flaw. This is neurobiology. We are going to naturally default to expectations, but we can intentionally reframe to aspirations. So for example, I have a goal, you might have heard about it, to reach 100 ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'd like to reach it by the end of the year. Built into that goal are expectations. There's a number, there's timing, there's a little bit of urgency. But when I can name those expectations, I can reframe them as aspirations, my deeper intention. My aspiration is to share what's in my heart with more people, to help more people relieve suffering, to help others realize they already have what they need and they can trust themselves. And when I act from that energy, like in inviting you to leave a 5-star rating and review, it's not because I need to hit 100. It's because I aspire to spread the work that matters so deeply to me. Do you feel the difference in the energy? If my focus is only about the number, I contract. But when the focus is on the intention, there's connection, impact, resonance. I expand. That's aspiration. And if I hit the number, great. But if not, my worth and my mission and my experience are not on the line because I've still been in alignment with my goal and my aspiration. So for me, aspiration has reinforced my sense of trust in myself, whereas expectation reinforces doubt. I start to get into scarcity. I start to get into fear that I can't do it, or it's not going to happen, or I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Aspiration lives in trust, in self-trust, as we've been talking about. It says, maybe I don't know exactly how this is all going to unfold or when, but I trust myself to meet whatever comes. I trust myself to follow this path. And it's not passive, it's intentional. There's still direction, but without demanding certainty. It's open and expansive and curious. Aspiration doesn't say, I need this outcome to be some particular way. It says, I'm okay right now. And I trust my capacity to navigate what comes. Expectation ties my okayness to an outcome. Aspiration aligns me with my intention and my actions today. Okay. It's interesting. You might know I love etymology. That word aspiration, it comes from the root meaning to breathe. Of course, the word aspirate means to breathe. And when I looked up this root, the word evolved from the physical act of breathing to include moving toward a goal while influenced by the connection between breath, spirit, and life. Isn't that interesting? I know I'm such a geek for this stuff, so maybe it's not as interesting to you, but I just feel how the energy behind that word also holds the meaning. Whereas the word expectation comes from a meaning of anticipation. Anticipation has baked into it a waiting. So it's not here now, and it never can be. It's a setup to be not present. Living from the energy of aspiration, everything changes. Expectations about proving, aspirations about being. It's really about becoming who you are. So this is a part of why I'm calling my new program The Power of Becoming. I'm so stoked. I know I mentioned it previously. Details are below if you want to check it out. It's my in-person retreat program I'm going to host in January. We're going to get together, get clear about your values, what matters to you, build your authentic vision for your life, and get you a plan. It's not chasing a version of who you think you should be or setting you up for failure through expectations. It's remembering who you deeply are and becoming that. You could still have goals. This program is about approaching those from aspiration. So you can actually feel the happiness and the joy that you're wanting now, not some later time in the future. So I'd love for you to join. Check it out. Link is below. So this week, start to notice, when do you move from expectation? When do you start gripping the future rather than trusting the present? Notice that. And then breathe and remind yourself, okay, I can move toward what I want from trust without needing to prove. A journaling exercise might be to write down your expectations and then reframe them all as aspirations. Try it out and let me know what you find. Actually, come email me, call in the hotline. Happiness isn't waiting for you at some future moment. It's here. And your willingness to let go of what you thought your life was supposed to look like. So thank you for being here. If this episode resonated, please rate the show 5 stars, leave a review, share it with someone who needs the reminder. Your ratings and reviews have been really helping us grow. So cool. And again, help me out with my goal, my aspiration to spread this passion that's coming from deep within my soul with as many people as I can. You leaving a review helps me do that. I appreciate your support, especially if you're finding value in this. And if you haven't yet, please follow, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. I will see you next week with a very fun, exciting entree that's going to help you connect to more joy. I'll see you then.